for that one.
I'm suspicious. I'm very suspicious right now.
I don't actually have it up on screen, so I have no idea if we're live or not.
We are.
I'm just going to continue doing
are.
SNL bits.
Hello,
Oh,
everybody.
hi, everyone.
That's why I was suspicious.
I tried to bait them into doing a bit before we went live, but Freeman caught on to me immediately, and it did not go well.
I was like, wait a minute.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I tried to bait them into doing a bit. I did my best. I did this for you. It didn't work because Freeman is a fucking sorcerer. So it didn't work.
I don't know. Lucas is pretty sus right now.
Hello everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Ramblemancy. We are here tonight to talk about The Trajectory of Fear by Ash Law, which is very good. I reread it again today. We will get to that. But before we do, a word from our sponsors. It's us. We're our sponsors. We paid for everything. We've got some announcements. Kinda. They're really just kind of the usual ones, which is, first of all, if you did not know, today at noon 15, because YouTube's weird now about when you can post stuff, the latest episode of It Came From the Loop is on YouTube. So you can watch episode 2, Children of the Loop, right now, if you so choose. It was a very good episode. I was so pleased. It was very good. I was glued to the screen the whole time. It was excellent. So yeah, if you haven't caught up on that, now is a great time to do it because it is there. It's good. Loop, exactly.
Loop.
Tomorrow on this very channel, we're gonna be streaming. I don't know why I built it up so much. We're gonna be streaming. We're actually gonna be streaming. John and I are gonna be playing some Conan Exiles, which I've been playing a bit of recently, and it's gonna be very, very weird and chaotic and fun,
and a little bit Eye of Argon.
It's a little bit Eye of Argon, yes, absolutely.
Mostly because I think that's like the genre of fantasy that gave birth to it. But
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be great. We will write our own Eye of Argon story within the Conan universe.
Cool.
We will wander around. We will fight monsters and other people, and we will probably die a lot, but it'll be entertaining.
Occasionally Lucas will die and I will fall from 6,000 feet in the air to my death repeatedly.
That's probably more likely what will happen because we are playing on a non-dedicated game, and that means that John is tethered to my location, so if I die and respawn somewhere, John is just bloop, wherever I go. So
and sometimes Conan Exiles forgets how to calculate elevation, so it just puts me up in the clouds.
Oh, you want to respawn in the sky? Okay. So that happens sometimes. So that'll be fun. Tune in to watch that. That's, I think, all I've got for now. Yeah, I think that's everything, right? I mean, that's all. That's what's up. That's not what I was going to say, but it's the only words I can say.
Perfect.
Let's get started with tonight's episode of Ramblemancy. First of all, hello everyone and welcome. How are you guys doing tonight? I mean, that's to chat as well, but also John and Freeman.
I'm doing good. Chat, by the way, I just put in a timer and a command for tonight if you want to read along for the as we're reading the Trajectory of Fear, because we're going to reference this document a whole bunch tonight. If you type exclamation horror about every 15 minutes, night bottle play.
Yeah. But, how to use horror tropes effectively in your game. I love this. I read it a couple of times today.
Yeah, it's very good. It is very, very good.
I wrote about this.
Oh, sorry. I'll just say the article with a bonus at the end telling you use safety tools in your games, damn it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Friends who roll dice. Hello. Hey. Thank you so much for the raid. Hello, everybody. Welcome. You actually got here just in time to miss all of our really disappointing bits, and we are diving right into the meat of tonight's episode. Hello and welcome. I hope your stream went well. It sounds like it was a lot of fun. Welcome. Please understand that I'm both Trying gimbling. Okay. All right. All right. Sure. Um. Tonight we are actually going to be talking about The Trajectory of Fear by Ash Law, which is basically um friends who roll dice brought me here, and now I'm going to make this everyone's problem.
That's a problem.
All right. Cool. Good. Awesome, Mad Ferret. We here at Ramblemancy on Ramblemancy, we love problems. Causing them.
Mhm.
I was going to say solving them, but that's rarely true.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we didn't actually solve the one last week where I derailed us with butt
Right.
puns for 25 minutes.
I mean,
So
Yeah.
I suppose doubling and tripling down on the problem counts as solving it. So,
Good point.
fair. We did that with aplomb.
we did. We did indeed. Well, we're going to be talking about The Trajectory of Fear by Ash Law. And it is. Wait, sorry, what was the subtitle again? I always forget the subtitle for it.
The subtitle for it is How to Use Horror Tropes Effectively in Your Game.
Yeah.
That's right, your game.
That's right. I'm going to stop doing that.
You at home can use these 6 simple tips.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, let's see. How do we want to start? John, you looked like you had something you were going to say first.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I wrote about this tiny bit on my blog today, but like I discovered the Trajectory of Fear way back in college, and like I had a bunch of just pent up creative energy at the time, and like the reason that I discovered it was more or less because I found some thread or another on Reddit that was like how to run scary games for October, and so I proceeded to do just that, but I found it, and it's been like a very like valuable resource to me ever since in terms of like planning horror games. I don't know that I've ever gone quite so hard as I went the first time that I used it, but the cool thing about this little document and the Trajectory of Fear is that that little term refers to something within here that almost like that annoying little graph that every English teacher has shown their students about like the plot of a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's got one of those, but for like how to ratchet up and back down the levels of fear in your game. So that first game that I ran, I remember I had like denoted all of the ways that I was going to like ratchet things up and then diffuse them, ratchet up and diffuse, and ratchet up and diffuse. But I suppose we could just start out by talking like a little bit about what they define, like how they define the different levels of horror, because I think that's like kind of important
Mhm.
for the rest of the discussion.
Mm-hmm. I'll start out actually real fast by Friends Who Roll Dice had a question, which is, what's scarier for you, difficulty/threat, jump scares, or mind games? Honestly, for me, I mean, it depends on what you mean by mind games, but I generally prefer like atmospheric spookiness. That's my thing. I like that. I think jump scares are cheap and they get old quick, and yeah, difficulty and threat doesn't necessarily equal scary, so I'm more about the slow build.
Absolutely agree. I can answer this question easily by saying what I don't like, and that is I don't like jump scares, and I don't like needless gore.
That too, yes, that one's also.
Yeah.
I don't think that's scary. It's just
No,
grating.
Gross.
I find it
it's just
grating.
gross.
But
Yeah,
that's me.
definitely love the freakiness that can be created with one's own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something they mention in this document that I love is with Alien, how there's scenes where you don't even see the monster, you just see the shadows, and it's implied that their monster is there, and then your mind takes care of the rest. I appreciate that a
lot. Amethyst Cat Lady says, I get painful muscle spasms, so jump scares scare me, but for different reasons. Fair enough. Karaoke Night says, I like horror for the same reason I like sci-fi. I like to explore the unknown and consider new possibilities. That's also fair. Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
Also, John, just so that you're aware, Colin is very clearly audible. I'm
gonna go let him know that we're live.
Okay.
I just tuned in.
Yeah. But anyway, So, okay, trajectory of fear. That's the thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, the basic premise, for those who don't feel like sitting and reading through the whole thing right now, which understandable, the basic premise of the trajectory of fear is essentially that there are four main types of fear. There's unease, there's dread, there is horror, and there is terror. And there are different types of fear. The unease is sort of that build up, the like something is off, and something like just setting that scene of something feels weird.
Something spooky.
You don't know what.
Maybe.
It's sort of nameless, formless, whatever. Dread is more like okay, there's something kind of concrete that is causing this feeling of of fear in us, but we don't really know what to attribute it to. It's not immediate, but it's present. We know it's present. And then horror is more like it is immediate and is present, but it's not like in our faces. It's just like it's that moment where you hear the monster skirting around, like you're hiding in the cupboard and the monster is just outside and you can hear it, but you can't see it because you're hiding. And then there's terror, which is kind of the jump scare. It's the jump scare a little bit, but it's a bit more the like you see it clearly and now it's time to do something about it.
Roll initiative.
Exactly. So
I think that one's actually horror, but yeah.
Yeah.
Is it that way? Okay. Well.
Yeah, because terror comes before horror. Terror is like the monster is here, but I cannot see it.
Yeah. Just hear it. You hear it.
And then horror is like the monster has more or less revealed itself. Everybody roll initiative. Time to fight.
Yeah.
Time to.
Yeah. So those are the types of fear that are detailed in this article, and basically what the author essentially says. I'm just sort of summarizing it now so that we can actually like talk about it rather than going item by item through it, which I think would not be particularly interesting.
Yeah.
But basically what the author says is that you basically take the first three types and manipulate them as you see fit to build the atmosphere of terror, and you got to keep a good balance with them, or else you come off as like kind of schlocky or farcical, which like if that's what you're trying to do, that's what you're trying to do, and great, congratulations. But like if you're trying to build like a real atmospheric sort of horror situation, and this goes for writing and for like GMing and stuff like that, it's same stuff, same principles. Then you kind of follow this, you build up the tension by going, unease, dread, terror, unease, dread, terror, and back and forth, and bringing it up and down as necessary. So, yeah, that's pretty much the article. Like, and then the rest of it is just like specific examples from films, like Geek Outs was pointing out earlier about like I think they talked about Blair Witch and about Alien. Yeah. I'm actually really curious because I saw Geek Outs that you were disagreeing with their opinions about those movies, but I'm actually very curious to know why specifically. What specifically? I was thinking about this today, but.
Yeah, and Geek Outs just says terror and horror are the weakest, too much unease, and you get the Addams Family or Gloomies, all dread, and or all horror, and it's a gore fest. And yeah, it's actually like terror is actually one of your it's unsustainable, right? Because you can't have your characters like freaking out the whole time, because at that point again it starts to become schlocky. Or if like you're supposed to be super excited all the time, it is like I said, it's emotionally unsustainable for like both the GM, and it's atmospherically like kind of unsustainable. It starts to just become like funny at a certain point, like oh, I still can't see the monster, what's it doing this time? But like terror is like the richest, I think, of any of the forms of horror in there, at least for me, or the levels of fear for me, because like there's still like you've still preserved a bit of the mystery about it. There's still an uncertainty, like when is it going to do something? Is it going to do something? Or is it going to get away again? Like there's still a lot of that tension that's unresolved when you're at terror. And you can still like pretty well diffuse that back down to like dread and unease.
Yeah, it's sort of like, to use a like to use a sports analogy. Yes, I can do those sometimes. Like in soccer or like ultimate frisbee or things like that, right? When you're passing, you don't want to just pass straight towards your goal. Sometimes you need to pass back. Sometimes in order to advance down the field, you need to pass backwards to like a teammate, somebody who's open back there, or laterally, right? It's that kind of thing where you don't just go straight for the goal. Although I suppose you could, depending on how much time you had, you could just go boom, 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 follow the steps one after the other, and you get there. But yeah,
Right. Like, how many horror movies have you, or like pieces of horror media have you seen where like the character hears something and they turn and they like walk over to the closet and you're like, oh, don't open the closet, don't open the closet, and then they open it and like it's just their closet full of clothes. And like that's like a perfect example, I think, of defusing from like, or like, you know, especially, or if something like tumbles out on top of them, you're like, oh God. And it's just like, oh no, they stacked too many Tupperware containers in their kitchen. Like,
that's me like every other night.
Oh man, back to unease.
Yeah. And even like all the way back to one of the other things that Ash Law talks about in the Trajectory of Fear is like establishing normalcy. Because if you start at unease, then like Geek said earlier, it's just like Gloomies or the Addams Family. Like if everything is kooky and weird, then like nothing is. So you have to start like at normalcy, and you almost jump all the way back to that when you defuse like that, when you're like, oh no, it's just some Tupperware containers stacked up in their cupboard that fell on them. It's fine.
Those Tupperware. Tell you what.
And this guy says too many Tupperware in the kitchen equals instant white people in infomercial set. You're absolutely right. So I'll give you an example of a movie that does that very badly. Anybody watch The Unborn?
No.
No.
So.
It's not great because you know the classic mirror scene, right, where they get up in the middle of the night and they go to the mirror, they open it, and then you're like, oh God, there's gonna be something in the reflection, and they close it, and there's nothing there. They do that so many times in that movie that by the time there's actually something with the mirror scene, you're just kind of like over it.
Yeah. And that kind of, I know I don't want to skip too much ahead. If we're just kind of bouncing around this article, is that what we're kind of doing?
No, I was starting us off by summarizing it so that then we can talk about whatever we wanted in regards to it.
Because I wanted to say in response to that, it's like relying too heavily on the gimmick.
Yeah.
And it kind of just makes it meh.
Yeah. There's a section in there about gimmicks specifically and not relying on them. Otherwise it does, like, as I think as he put it, like it does kind of become schlocky. Or like if we're talking specifically in terms of tabletop RPGs, like dimming the lights seems like a really cool idea, but then nobody can see their character sheets or dice.
Yeah. I think the music can still work though.
That's why you use digital. I'm just kidding. Don't do what you want.
Music is still pretty good though.
Yeah,
if you do it right.
His point about music was weird because I was like, volume is a thing that exists. But
yeah, and like music is so integral to so many of the games that I run. Like having a cultivated soundscape is so nice.
Yeah, Geek Out's I think further makes the point, I think, like that I was making, which is like the triple fake trope is something like something is in the closet. No, it's the cat. No, it's a volleyball. Everything is fine and the music has calmed. Then the killer jumps out and triple fakes barely work. Yeah, absolutely. Because like by that point you've gone to like 11 and back to 0 so many times that by the time it's like just one more time of going, like you're starting to like level out. You get diminishing returns from that.
Yeah, like you almost can't really skip from like tiers of fear very many times. Like you can get away with it maybe once or twice, I think, but if you do it more than that, then like your players or your audience are going to come to suspect it. They're never going to drop back down below dread, even though your intent is for them to be at like unease or normalcy. Because you've trained them to understand that even normalcy is dread. Like,
yeah. So, this is actually a really good point. Rule of 3 doesn't quite work for horror, and that's absolutely right. Just because it works for comedy doesn't mean it works for horror. It's not the same. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, Geek Outs. If you use lighting, music, and other things, but have a weak story, then it's all show and no substance. That's fair. I think that is a fair point. I just thought that the specific point about music was weird, the way that it's phrased there, because it's basically like, if you use music, your players won't be able to hear you. I'm like, okay, but like used within a context of like, if that's all you're relying on, then sure, absolutely, right. I think that makes sense. Comedy
it's
horror, though. Now there's a thought.
True. True. Using the gimmick to enhance what's already there is kind of what's said there.
Yeah.
It's good, and I agree with that, obviously, but not just relying on it. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
What was I gonna say? I had a thing that I was gonna bring up, and I don't remember what it was.
I had a thought too, but then it just got really warm in here all of a sudden. Like, forgot.
Yeah. I do remember something else, though, and it's unfortunately something that I should have remembered prior to clicking the live button. Probably what I should have been doing instead of trying to bait you guys into a bit is that I have not put our names on the screen. So I'm going to do that right now.
Oh,
and y'all are just going to get to like sit here
Our
and
names.
pretend that I'm not doing this. And it's
okay,
gonna be fine.
cool. We'll just, we'll
Yeah.
vamp.
Yeah.
So like, I'm curious, chat, like what are some examples of you think of, like, when you think of horror media that does it right, like what's your go-to thing where you're like, yes, this did horror very well? I just thought of this question, so I don't have a good answer to it yet.
I don't quite. Well, yeah.
There's several good examples in there, but
yeah, true. I couldn't retain all of it. But I do have the document up right now. I love the graph, and I think another one could be made. But I love the graph of unease, dread, unease, dread, unease, dread, terror, horror, and then you end on unease. Did the spirit escape?
Geek Out says Get Out, which I still to this day have not yet watched, and I just haven't done it. And frankly, things being what they are, won't now for quite some time.
Yeah, I confess I'm very into eerie, like kind of eerie media right now, but I am not about that horror life.
Yeah.
It'd have to be like something I've already watched and enjoyed for like the fact that it's like a classic horror. Like all the monster films, I'll watch them all the time. Like that doesn't quite get me.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I realized I typed my @ incorrectly.
Oh, you did?
Listen, everybody, there is an underscore here, okay? I just want everybody to know. I want to clarify. There's an underscore.
I was wondering if mine was incorrect too.
Oh my god.
Second guess myself.
Amethyst Cat Lady brings up The Green Mile, which that film messes me up every time that I see it.
It has been such a very long time since I've seen that film. I think I was like maybe 10 the last time I saw it. No, I was younger than that, but
I've seen it a bunch of times in the last few years, mostly because like I'll be at home and then like there'll be a movie marathon on or something because it's the holidays, and for some reason they're like Green Mile all week, and I'm like, okay, sure, I guess we're watching The Green Mile.
Yeah.
But
oh gosh. Sorry, I was like trying to keep it. Haunting of Hill House says Karaoke Night 69, which I actually almost started watching that the other day, and I didn't quite get around to it because I got distracted by literally everything that I have on my plate right now. But yeah, I it's definitely on my list. I'll make the argument that Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street is better than the article makes out. Did I don't remember reading about that one in that. Did I just like skip over it entirely?
Was it? I'm not sure which bit that was.
Remy says, I usually don't like horror in the strong sense, but like how horror is done in Undertale and Wadanohara and the Deep Blue Sea, but rely on the unease versus horror. I think, yeah, I fully agree with that. I'm much more into that as well. That's why one of my favorite, like, I wouldn't really even call it a horror film. I bring this up all the time. It's The Orphanage. It's a Spanish film.
Oh yeah.
And because that movie, like, no spoilers because it's very good and you should watch it if you haven't, but it has it ends with a weird weirdly heartwarming but also sad and still spooky somehow. Like it's interesting the way that
I love that combination.
Do it. But the whole thing is like that whole movie is about unease. It waffles wildly between unease and dread. They rarely spike up to terror. Like almost never.
Yeah, there might only be one
Yeah.
part in there that's terror, maybe, but
Yeah. And I don't think they ever go up to horror. I don't think they ever
I
go up
don't
to
I don't
horror.
think so.
It's really interesting the way that movie is done, but yeah.
I just realized that there is a horror film. It's a sci-fi horror film from 1956. The Forbidden Planet.
Okay, all right.
Hmm.
Have
Is
any?
that a horror?
Has any? Is it like it deserves to be? If it's not, I don't know if
I
that's. Yeah, I
mean,
don't know if it's strictly speaking horror, but
maybe
my
for
God, it does this so well.
huh. Okay.
That's
Um,
the one that's based on The Tempest, isn't it?
Actually, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's basically like 50s sci-fi Tempest,
Oh, I love it. Oh,
but like the way that that movie is so uncomfortable the
mm-hmm.
whole time that they're on the planet, like
Hmm.
between like the way that they use the soundtrack anytime that there's like things like something that's related to like this vast machinery beneath the crust of the planet that the aliens who lived there before built, um to just like the way that dangerous wildlife isn't, but then like is, and um like the way they kind of like set up these mysteries and tensions. Like I've seen that movie a bunch of times because it was one of my dad's favorite movies, but that's one that I remember as just like
Yeah.
it kind of, and right, because the whole time that they're on the planet too, like the longer that they're there, there's this invisible force that keeps like trying to I think it kills someone early on, and then it gets worse and worse the longer that they're there. And the whole time there's just like this tension of not knowing what the thing is, and there's sound that like there's music and sound that accompanies the thing whenever it shows up, but you never
Huh.
actually get to see it.
Perfect.
um
Hmm.
and then the more they try to like fight against it, the stronger it becomes. It's what, like, anyway.
Hold on. I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting my notebook because there's some Geek Outs keep suggesting films that I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen that in forever and I need to watch it. Like The Thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I need
I
to
know. I
watch
just
I
have a
need to
million.
rewatch it. You know
I
when
just
the
have
last time I saw The Thing was?
hmm,
I was like maybe 11, 10 or 11. That's the last time that I saw The Thing. So I need to rewatch that.
that's
So
probably
I'm
around the
going to I'm
same
going to write
age.
it down.
Yeah, I just have a million tabs open. I think The Shining is a good one.
But to double back, I think on the Nightmare on Elm Street Jaws comparison, and I glanced,
Oh
and I think the
yeah.
context that he was talking about it in was like consequences of actions.
Mhm.
So like I
Yeah.
think essentially what he was saying is that it's less impactful for someone to just like pop up and murder people, especially like in a tabletop game, than it is for like the tension to be a result of the player's actions and choices. So like
Mm-hmm.
leaning into consequences of player choice.
Yeah. I really want to go back to chat because
Mm-hmm.
Edgefit says that 28 Days Later was great at the time. I feel like it's kind of lost its greatness on rewatching due to the flood of generic zombie movies since then. I agree with you. I think that movie was very well done the first half of it. Because there's that period of time when they like make it to like the military guys, and then after that it's just like what
Hmm.
is happening? It's just strange after that. But like the beginning of that movie is amazing because they build it up where it's just where like I think it's just a solid like maybe 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes of just silence, and the soundtrack, the John Murphy's In the House in a Heartbeat is just amazing. Like that is a perfect track for that because it just slowly builds and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
crescendos at the point where it's like zooming out when he's just like walking through a deserted London, and it's just amazing. Like that plus the chapel scene. The chapel
Yeah.
scene will live forever in my brain as, I wouldn't say rent free exactly
Mm.
because, it's not, I mean, it takes its anyway, but it's an amazing scene that just always sends chills down my spine when he's like standing kind of on the balcony looking out over where there's like a bunch of ostensibly dead bodies, and he just goes hello, and suddenly like several of them just stand up very suddenly and look up at him. It's just the most chilling thing to me. It's just yeah.
Yeah. Um, Remy asked, he said, I'm not much of a film guy, but are there any horror video games you think are successful in how they do horror? And I always have one that I respond with. And I feel like it's one that people don't really expect because, you know, you expect more like horror series or something. But I, the memories of playing through Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance like live actually rent free in my brain, like being having like played the other Metroid games in the franchise and then coming to that one where all of a sudden I was powerless and this fully powered version of me was hunting me through the station while I was frantically like trying to like escape from it and escape the station. Is like I feel like it's much less the typical like Metroidvania where you're like kind of like figuring out how you can break out of the intended cycle of item acquisition and exploration and stuff like that, because like the story is much more linear in that one, I think. But there's the atmosphere that it builds, of this like it almost feels like very Alien, the movie like Alien at the beginning. And so like that's one of my favorite horror games that's not really a horror game but kind of like leans into a lot of horror tropes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have an answer for that question too, but I just want to I before it disappears, I do want to acknowledge Geek Out's shouting out Tucker and Dale versus Evil, because that's 100% one of my favorite films of all time. I love that movie. It is an excellent intersection of horror and comedy, where it takes it takes the comedy tropes and it or like the horror tropes, and it like totally deconstructs them and satirizes them to such an amazing degree, while also just playing into them as well. It's amazing. It's a great film. Alan Tudyk is great in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Remy, I actually do have an answer to that question as well. And I don't know that it holds up today, but at least on my first playthrough of it, and Freeman already knows what I'm going to say. Um, is Penumbra Black Plague.
Ooh.
It's by the
Yep.
same folks who did it's sort of like the predecessor to Amnesia. I didn't actually like Amnesia because Black Plague was better at doing like
Mm-hmm.
Penumbra was better at doing the horror thing. Um, because in Amnesia, like you get to a certain point where it's just kind of like there's Amnesia actually makes the mistake of getting stuck in the unease. It stays there. And then there's some dread. But like it's not great. But Penumbra does a really good job of just fucking with you constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in that game is designed to unsettle you, from the atmosphere to like the background story of what's happening in the game to like even just like little tricks where you'll be walking down a corridor, you'll turn a corner and like see like you'll be looking into like an operation room with like a cadaver that is like has a like on the operation table with like cloth draped over it. You'll turn the corner and suddenly you're walking down a very familiar stretch of hallway, and you like look and once again pass an operation room and you realize it's the same operation room, only there's no cadaver, and it's just it's yeah,
I love that moment.
it just
That.
totally fucks with you constantly, and it's amazing. And like
Oh.
yeah.
You know, the first time we played that was, and a friend of ours set us up and turned off all the lights.
Mm-hmm.
Already knew what the game was about. Got us so good. Well, I think our friend was playing. We were watching. We still got freaked out though.
Yeah.
But I think it was our friend at the time was playing it,
Yeah.
and that was, oh,
Like I said, I'm not sure the game holds up today, but
Mm-hmm.
it is
probably not.
it is pretty. I had a good experience. But if you decide to play Penumbra, just play Black Plague. Do not play Overture.
Yeah.
Overture had a misguided attempt at adding combat into the game, and it was combat that like is absolutely it's like 99% ineffectual, and but there are sections of the game that you literally can't get through without using it, so that basically translates to parts of the game that you literally can't get through, period. So yeah, just
Yeah.
Black Plague, not Overture.
I think that like what you mentioned about Amnesia getting stuck at unease.
There's too much nothing happening, but there's a
It's one of
lot
the
of voices that's just constantly like, something's happening, and then nothing does.
it's one of the things that I like about Metroid Fusion is that like you get to after like you'll have encounters with like the alter Samus and then like you'll kind of you like you can like hide from it and listen to the thing's footsteps retreat. And I remember the first time that happens, I spent like a full 2 minutes just like in my little hiding place watching my little morph ball spin there, just like, is it gone? Oh god. But like you get to like return to the regular gameplay loop of hunt some power-ups, go to the next thing, like progress the plot before like you run into like some other frightening mystery.
Yeah. I think Remy makes a really good point here, which is I just like horror games because I prefer being able to control situation versus a movie or a film where I feel like I'm being forced to witness everything. Yeah. And see I think that's why so often horror games it's hard to do them right, I think, right? To balance exactly what you're talking about, that control, but it's one of the reasons why it's one of the same. I think horror games are hard to do right because for the same reason that tabletop RPG is hard to do horror with, because of the ability to like just manipulate your situation. You know, how you can like it's a hard balance to keep, to give you the player control over the situation, but also maintain the atmosphere of it, right? Like that's tough, and I think that's a really good point. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Like, and that particular thing, I think, is one of the things that makes the mid and late game of Dead Space not very enjoyable. Because, like, the idea behind Dead Space when they made it was like that monsters could come from anywhere, and in practice, that sounds really like ooh scary. But like in theory, but in practice, what it means is that like you just very rapidly lose control of situations and you don't ever feel like anywhere is safe, and so you don't really ever get to like fully come back down every so often. But I think there's a lot that I really love about the first Dead Space game in terms of like the atmosphere that it establishes.
Yeah.
It's just like it leans, I think, too much on the horror end
Yep.
of the spectrum.
That's why I couldn't play
Especially
it.
yeah, the longer the
Not
game
because
goes
I
on,
was
the
scared,
more.
but because I became exhausted after a while.
It is
Mhm.
exhausting. They
mentally
don't give
exhausted.
you, yeah. If you don't get that break from the catharsis or that high
Yeah.
from getting terrified, horrified, I guess,
Yeah.
then you can't do it
Your
anymore.
brain is like constantly
Fatigued.
stimulated, and exactly.
You get
Your brain
fatigued.
it's constantly
Mhm.
stimulated, and then you get fatigued, and you just sort of burn out, and you're just kind of like, okay, I don't want to.
Fuck,
when you
like
finally
fucking,
when you finally die in the game, it
yeah.
offers you a release, and you could
like,
just click
oh,
reload save game, or you could just click exit, and I
Yeah.
do that.
Exit. The latter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tired,
I
y'all. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm
Yeah.
tired of going into rooms, putting my back against the wall, which is standard gamer practice, and then having the wall explode out behind me in a mass of tentacles and arms that are constantly full of blades and chopping me up. You know, that
Right.
whole thing.
And
yeah.
that's that game. Dead Space.
Yeah. And that's the part of Dead Space that I don't like, because like there's a lot of like cool atmospheric shit that
Yeah.
they have going on in that game, and like a lot of those neat horror tropes, like too, like I know there are
Well,
times in that game like scripted events where like you walk through an infirmary and there's corpses on the tables, and then you come back through and one of them is missing and you're like, wait, 1 2 3 1 2 3 fuck. you know.
you might even say that parts of that game actually have a lack of atmosphere.
Yeah. God damn it, Freeman.
sorry. That was so beautifully delivered, Freeman.
Oh, man.
Dead Space takes place in a spaceship, you guys. Sometimes there's no atmosphere if you've never played it. Motherfucker.
I'm so mad about that when I started crying. Jesus.
Wow, I've really done it this time.
You upset Lucas so much that he's crying, and I'm laughing so hard that I'm crying. So
I've really end my misery.
for fuck's sake, I was taking a drink.
Oh,
Thank you,
goodness.
Geek Outs.
Thank you. Fastest clipping finger in the West.
Yeah.
That's very true. Oh man,
Well.
man.
Oh gosh.
I
Gemini Lightning says, I miss the crew of Awakener, and that is all. Me too.
I miss the Awakener.
I was just.
Yeah.
I know. Shut up, John. I did this with you, and I'm still not okay with that.
You set me up, Gemini. You open the door, I just walk through it.
Oh man.
This evening on Ramblemancy, crimes.
Crimes.
There's an emote for this on twitch.tv/KKAMABR.
I wouldn't go so far as to call what you just did art, but sure.
Crimes.
Crimes.
What was I even gonna say? What were we even talking about? Did we do it again? You guys,
No.
last time we had 30 full minutes. We only had 30 minutes left until the end of the stream before we derailed everything irreversibly.
Well,
we still have like half the fucking show. Chill for like 2 seconds.
I think the show's evolving. I think it's telling us something. I think we were talking about Dead Space. Too much overload of horror being yucky.
I feel like
and like never.
Yeah.
But invoking the loss of Awakening.
Yeah, Heart of Handprints is here, John, to ask, how dare you?
It's listen, I have a brand to maintain.
Is that brand being a terrible person? Because congratulations. No.
I've done it flawlessly, stuck the landing.
Oh god. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for the bits. Holy crap.
Love it.
That is a cheer. Thank you. God. All of this is just all right.
That's what I get for well, if being a criminal gets me bits.
I have to. Geek Outs wrote a spooky mini fiction in chat. I'm gonna read it dramatically. Here we go.
Ooh.
Imagine not being able to stay on topic despite all efforts. You cannot stay focused, and you and your companions ramble aimlessly. You have entered the Ramblemancy.
Ooh. Very good. Very good. I was trying to figure out how to set my screen for black and white for that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
That would have been excellent.
I was not prepared.
And copyright infringement. Correct.
I think I stuck under 6 seconds. We're safe.
I think we're okay.
Fair. Yeah.
Remy has a question. I know y'all have run games before, so there are any favorite horror tropes you have played into to add to the dread or unease and play into the player expectation in that? I tried once doing. So I was running a one-shot a couple years ago. It actually, I think, was a two-shot is what it ended up being. I don't fully remember, but it was that one, the Goatman one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that was two. Was that two?
Was it two?
Was that
I
two-shot?
honestly don't remember. But
could have been actually.
I tried doing. I tried to do the thing where like, with the Goatman, like I tried to do the thing where like they couldn't keep track of like how many of them there were, and like I kept saying whenever I was like talking about um whenever I was like talking about the group, I would just say a different number every time whenever I was referring to them, like the 6 of you, the 4 of you, the 8 of you. I just say a different number. It didn't really work out because I didn't remember to do it half the time, but I think that kind of stuff is really cool. Like the meta aspects that you use in order to like make in-game stuff happen. In a general sense, that's my answer. It's a very general answer, but that's the one.
Yeah, my favorite version of that is, especially if players are coming up to a place that's haunted, is like having them reach like the threshold of some place, and then just as like I'm giving my usual description, I'll be like having them describing to them the feeling that like somebody else is here with them, like that somebody else has been here with them,
Right.
that they feel like somebody has been here for some time, and then they look around at each other and they don't remember anyone having been there, but they, if you'd asked them a moment ago how many of them there were, they would have said one more than there are, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite like ways to utilize that, and like kind of set just like a okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really answer. I've not run a game.
Mhm.
I would like to run at some point. I think what I would like to do. This would take quite a lot of planning. I believe Henry's mentioned this before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Henry at one point said that'd be really cool to go camping, get a cabin out in La
Mm-hmm.
Push, and then play some role playing games in the cabin. I would add to that, unless he said this, I can't remember. Make it like a spooky college students or kids out camping, and make a spooky thing in the woods while actually camping out in the coast over here.
Yeah.
That would be fun. And dim lights, everyone has a headlamp to look at everything and actually get kind of like almost dread in a way, but not quite, because that's a very specific game and we don't have a Jenga tower that big. But something like that.
I would love to play Dread. Play or
Me
run,
too.
either way. I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Amethyst Cat Lady, I was not aware that that's what CBS stood for, so thank you for educating us. Let's see. Gemini Lightning says music, shadows, sounds, focusing on details that don't necessarily matter a lot. I think that's actually really, really cool. That's a cool thing. Like focusing on things that don't matter, I think is a really, really useful thing, especially if it's something that's like bonus points if it's a creepy thing that doesn't matter, or like a vaguely unsettling thing, like a cracked window frame or something like that. Like that's just, yeah, that's very cool. Unreliable narrator in horror games is delicate but can be fun. Yeah, I don't think I've ever managed to make it work before. I've tried, but it doesn't always turn out, mostly because it requires a lot of specific focus. And as we know, focus is definitely one of those things that if it says, Lucas, you constantly ramp up the dread on Infinite Horizon, often using the player's perception of things or lack thereof for that effect. You're probably right, but I'm struggling now to come up with specific examples. If you have one, I'm curious because I want to know. I can't think of anything exactly. I mean, the one thing I can remember is like vaguely just sort of that eerie emptiness from like the early episodes of Infinite Horizon when you are in the colony. But yeah,
I was gonna say a lot of the like the first couple episodes I think did that super well, but then like I think also the mystery arc also like did I think a pretty good, like you did a pretty good job of doing it in that one.
I didn't think about that one because I guess my mind is firmly grounded in horror right now, so I like wasn't thinking outside of the genre.
Oh, well, what was that?
I don't know because I didn't see it in real life, only on the screen.
Speaking of unease, everyone.
Thank you.
Was that behind me or in front of me?
Oh, no, we're in dread, I think.
Yeah, actually, honestly, that feels like terror. Like real life is kind of just like jumping straight from normalcy to terror, which is
that. That's like, remember that one time when we had friends who rolled dice? They were here on the channel, and there was like that random light spot that went behind me.
Yeah.
I think
Knowledge
your
of
house
ghosts.
may be haunted, Lucas.
I mean, I do live like
Well,
kitty corner from a cemetery, so like,
yeah.
Fair. Like, I believe it.
um. Also, hi, Rainy Keys, welcome.
Hey,
That's
Rainy
what
Keys and I sharing a brain
I was
cell.
about to say hello to you before something fucking fell out of the sky, and so get a gun. The basement's probably worse. Yeah. Because you have to
Basement's
go
haunted. What? Basement's haunted.
so bad. I don't. Was that in front of me or behind me? I don't even know.
It was in
I
front
think
of you, I
that
think.
was in front. Yeah,
Because I didn't see it except on the screen, so I don't know what that was about.
it looked like it was just kind of drifting
Yeah.
from one
It's
corner to
all
the
in
other.
theme.
I'm waiting. If I were running this TTRPG, it would fall in front of me or Freeman next.
Mhm.
Is what would happen.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I feel like I keep seeing it out of the corner of my eye, so there probably is just a bug flying around, but
Mhm.
every time I look, it's just not there.
Spoopy season truly has begun. This cat lady. This is really what kicks it off.
Yeah, the night
Your
after a
neighbors are
full
just saying hi, Lucas. Yeah, the
moon.
neighbors, they
They're so interesting.
yeah, they're so
That's yeah.
about to yellow.
Mhm.
All right, the stuff with Jade. Oh,
Hmm.
I suppose. Yeah, yeah. I can see that. I could see that. Yeah, yeah. Stream is haunted. Freeman, what? Lucas, Cox gun. Stream is haunted. Um, one of those tiny moths. Yeah, it's probably what it was. I'm trying to think if there are like other tropes to continue answering Remy's question that I use or enjoy. The thing is, I don't run horror too often. Like, I'll inject
Mhm.
some into my games, but because you got ghosts. Yes, perfect. Um,
I think um I think like isolation is one that I tend to lean into, and I've been running like not quite a horror game for our home D&D game, but like the early parts of that were like um a little bit like kind of gothic horror almost.
Hmm.
I think that we called that campaign in the early planning stages Diet Van Helsing. Um,
yep.
but I think isolation is one of the ones that I tend to lean on a lot. In addition to just kind of like atmospheric stuff, like like establishing like a sort of ethereal, like something is wrong here, but it's intangible, and I can't like touch it or see it or manipulate it, but I know it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the isolation thing. So like one of the ways that I know that I tend to do that is like when you enter the town, villagers will like you can see that they're like banded together almost, and if anyone is alone, they walk like quickly and with purpose. You never
Mm-hmm.
see anybody out doing anything, any like kind of for recreation or like standing around in the streets talking, and like in a way, and like they'll sort of go out of their way to avoid other groups of people or the players, like, and in that way like there's people, but the players are still very much alone in that situation. And so that's, I think that's another horror trope that I tend to lean on. Even when there are other people, like you the players are still alone. All you have is each other or yourself.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I know that I'm trying to think of like I know specific things that I've done, but I'm trying to think of like how to verbalize them as tropes.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, like I think actually a really good trope that I enjoy and have only employed in a game a couple of times is like the resolution with an unexplained with no answers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that I really enjoy. I like that trope. Like because it basically it's like all right, you did the thing, you defeated whatever this weird situation was. Like your mind controlled friends, you've freed them from mind control, but then like the whatever did it is just gone.
Hmm.
You don't think
Mhm.
that you did anything, that you had anything to do with it. It's just gone now, and it's not doesn't look like it's coming back, but it still exists somewhere in the world, and you still don't know what it is, what it wanted, or anything like that. So I like, I've done that a few times, and I kind of enjoyed that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think like one of the examples in the trajectory of fear, like he talks about like, the players frantically like trying to destroy all of the like possessed dolls that this evil spirit haunting the village is part of. And then like as they're leaving the village, they find a nail in a tree but no doll.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like that trope where you end on a not quite resolved note.
Ooh. Kikot says, Lucas, X-Files, Federal Bureau of Control-esque style of cipher game where the players are agents that investigate the strange and bizarre. Some sessions ending with no clear answers. Ooh, that sounds dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was a one shot that we did once, John, a long time ago. And karaoke night was part of this actually, which is what this Kikot's thing reminds me of. That like space one shot.
Yeah.
Where there was like some weird like alien fungus that was just like taking over the ship and like rotting it out.
Mm-hmm.
And like doing weird stuff. It was, yeah.
And we never found out anything about it
Nope.
the whole time. We were just frantically trying to escape it the whole time.
Yeah. I think karaoke night was part of that game because I vaguely remember they were playing some sort like an X-Files character. They were playing like I don't remember if it was Mulder or Scully, whichever one they were playing, but one of those.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Basically like that style of character, but guess I tend to do general NIAs. I go a little ham with like child sacrifice maybe. All right. Okay. All right.
Woof.
That went 0
to 100 real fast.
It was jolly old Up Nicholas who did that. Right. That's right. I remember now. Yeah. I just assumed it was you because it was X-Files related, so I just assumed it was you. Listen,
children are an expendable tool to get an early party to care.
You're not wrong, but Jesus.
This seems like a good time to talk about the other thing that's in this particular document, which is lines and veils.
Yeah, I was just about to.
Lines, veils, and landmines. Actually, is what he calls them.
Yeah.
And I got a rough setting. Eldritch Defense Service, officially part of the Pentagon R&D, but that's just for paperwork. Retirement is bad.
The campaign has been over for years, but this is your reminder that Keyleth killed children pre-stream.
That is true. That is true. Granted, it was indirectly. And never mind. We're not going to get into that. Anyway.
But yeah, one of the things that I think is cool about this document is that it does go over go over lines and veils, which is something like a conversation that I feel like I've only kind of seen enter the TTRPG space recently, like, kind of leading up to and then around like the stuff that Monty Cook Games has done recently, like with consent in gaming. And like kind of, I feel like that's almost like a kind of, I don't know, it's a very certainly recent form of safety tools in games like this, and in horror especially. I think safety tools are super, super important. Like they're always important for playing tabletop games and cooperative activities like this, but for horror especially so.
Yeah.
So much more raw. There's so much more that could possibly upset somebody.
Exactly, especially with like what we're talking about with like some of the tropes in particular, how you employ them, might be issues for some people.
Yeah,
the way that you describe something might bring up some pretty like traumatic memories or experiences or things like that, and you don't want to do that because the goal is for everybody to have fun. You're supposed to be scared in a fun way.
There's right. It's like when you go to a horror movie, you go to the horror movie to have fun, right? You go to the movies to have fun. and it's the same deal when you're sitting down at the gaming table. Um, and I really like actually the landmine section on that, in which like he advocates for like you or like either as players or as the GM being able to like comfortably say, let's bail out of this.
Yeah, even if it
This is
wasn't something that was part of the predetermined, like this is not ground we're going to touch, there could still be something you might tread on,
Right.
like a landmine,
Exactly.
and it's okay. It's okay to say no. I can't do that. Everyone, take a beat. Take 5 minutes,
Yeah.
as actually
I
it says
think
in there.
I remember talking about this with Ray from Friends Who Roll Dice when he was here with us, talking about that thing
Absolutely.
of like of not only you being responsible for as a player for like knowing what your lines and veils are, but also like the table's collective responsibility to create an environment where speaking up like that is like okay, you know,
Mhm.
where like
Where
that
that's easy.
where it's easy and where it's comfortable to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
To be able to speak up and say, "Okay, I am not comfortable with this. Can we move on?" And then everybody just without question just like, "Yep, absolutely, let's go." So like, yeah, that's I think an important thing that is never it should never be far from anybody's discussion of tabletop games, particularly in this genre.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Geekouts makes an excellent point too. You don't have to, and you shouldn't have to explain why something is a line. It
Mm-hmm.
should be just enough to say.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit of behind the scenes. So I don't even know. We might have talked about this before. I don't know, but like for Infinite Horizon, that's definitely a thing that we did. Even though most of us have actually, many of us had played together for a long time, but we still did it. We
Mm-hmm.
still did it, um, because
Like,
yeah, like it's just a we had like the sheet where people could anonymously put their lines and veils down, and then we had a meeting where we went over them and people could say which ones were theirs if they wanted to, or not, or then they could explain or not explain the like nuance of it, and then we moved on like with that
yeah,
in mind, and we set up contingencies for in case we ran across those landmine situations. And yeah, I mean, like it's important, do it.
yeah. I remember even I'm not on Infinite Horizon. I just like build setting and help
Mm-hmm.
help write the story and stuff. But like I remember I sat in that meeting so that I could like listen in to make sure that like I didn't push story beats in any directions that would be harmful to people,
Yeah,
like from behind the scenes. So
yeah, absolutely. What was I gonna say? I don't remember. Geekouts, did you ever actually go into detail about why you disagreed with the author's movie opinions about the movies? I don't remember. I don't. If you did, I didn't see it. I apologize.
yeah, I think I don't recall seeing it, but I also could have just missed it because
Yeah,
chat like has been
has been
pretty active this
hopping.
evening.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty lit
Um,
tonight.
they compared Jaws to Nightmare on Elm
Oh,
Street. Really? God, did I read the article? Jesus.
It happens. It's down in the commandments section where they're talking about
yeah.
consequences.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Um,
okay. Yeah.
I feel like
I did read that.
and basically, like what they say is like Jaws in terms of, and I think I don't remember entirely, but I think what they're getting at is specifically with tabletop RPGs having the some of the like the terror and horror be the result of player choice is more compelling than like you. This is a phrase I know that they use. Um, you as the GM like have godlike power over the setting and story. Don't use it to pull the wings off of flies. Like
Right.
you walk through the door and rocks fall on you, you die. Ah, ha ha ha.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but basically the idea was that going out on the boat where they knew there's a giant fuck off shark waiting to eat them is a player choice that results in scary things.
Mm-hmm.
And not even
As
any
opposed,
boat, a small ass boat.
I
Okay,
know.
they know how big that shark is. Come on.
Take a fucking battleship, dude.
There's a shark
Oh.
out there. Really? Where?
But yeah,
Such
like
a
I
good
think
film though.
Okay,
Damn.
so they
Oh.
compare Jaws to Nightmare on Elm Street, like comparing a good horror movie to a spectacular suspense thriller, like
mm,
comparing The Fast and the
Ah,
Furious to The Godfather. You can't. Okay,
fair
okay.
okay.
enough.
Yeah.
Good point.
I thought, see, because where I disagree with them is that the actually I don't even know if I disagree with them at this point. I just don't like the Blair Witch Project. I hate that movie. It makes me
I've
mad.
never watched it.
That movie just makes me mad. Like it doesn't. I don't feel like nothing feels spooky or scary about it. It doesn't. I actually, you know what? I do disagree with them. It does
Yeah.
not. Yes, thank you, Geek Outs. Thank you, Geek Outs. Um, it does
Don't I?
not successfully do the thing that they're talking about in this article. The Blair Witch Project does not do this. It stays at unease the whole fucking movie and then rapidly goes through through dread terror horror like at the end.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
really?
It
Ugh.
is like literally I'm talking the
Ugh.
last 5 minutes of that movie.
Ugh.
Like I'm sure there is room to disagree here, and the examples that they use are like I guess they work, but for me the way that they are execute, like the examples that they give as things that happen in the films qualify, but as for their execution in the films don't qualify under the like escalation to like dread terror, right? Like they don't qualify. Their
Huh.
execution is just like, oh, our friend went missing, that's scary, I guess, and then they're like looking around for a while and then they move the fuck on. Like that's I'm sorry, I hate that movie.
Idealistically, what he says is correct, but in practice, no. I haven't actually seen Blair Witch Project though.
Yeah.
Either.
So it's I was it one of the first like films of that like slew of horror films that were like hand cam
Yeah, like the
filmed.
found footage. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Jason
like
C. Art
Paranormal
and Jason
Activity.
C. Art says Blair Witch was a breakthrough for its marketing, not for the film itself. Yeah, that I will absolutely agree with. I absolutely agree with that. I saw you earlier, and I just wanted to say welcome because I like totally skipped over it. But hello and welcome. Glad you're here. And yeah, and I will agree with that. It absolutely was that. But yeah, it's marketed as a real thing, like 100% real. The actors did no press, and this was before social media. So, and I like and like it was in comic books. It had a website with fake press conferences and other things. It is a lie. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, it absolutely was very good at what they were driving at for that on like the meta aspect. But as a film, nah.
Yeah, I do like
Frank,
the.
oh,
Oh, go
so
ahead.
I was just gonna say, frankly, as far as found footage films go, I think Paranormal Activity, the first one only,
Mhm.
did a better job of that.
I like. I've only seen Paranormal Activity I think once, and it maybe twice. Maybe I saw it another time when I was in high school, but it was when I was in high school, so it
Mm-hmm.
was like a full decade ago.
Yeah.
And I remember like from what I remember, it accomplished pretty well what it set out to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like it cost $17,000 to make and made like 20 million. Dang.
Jesus.
Yeah, because they had like one
Yeah.
camera, I think that they
Oh,
used for the
found
whole
footage
movie.
films? I imagine that they're excellent for that. Like if you can pull them off, I bet they're so good for that because like the budget is so low
Right.
for that
Hmm.
for something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that. I remember that as like pulling off those kind of like moving from the different levels of horror pretty well and like
Hmm.
dragging the suspense out without like ever
If I
without it feeling like
recall,
awful. But
I want to say it was the third one that also did a decent job of that. I think it was because I don't think I saw the second one. I saw the first one and I saw the third. I've seen two of the Paranormal Activity films, and I think it was the first and the third. Um,
I think I saw some of the second one and it wasn't as good, and so I just stopped watching.
The third
I
one
think I'm
wasn't
in a
was
similar.
also not as good, but like
The
frankly,
third
I'm
one.
not a fan of any of those films. I just think they did a good job of being horror films. I don't like them,
Yeah.
but like they did
Hmm.
good job of yeah. Um Karaoke Night 69. I want to tell you about all these relevant movies I've seen, but they're all so bad and not recommendable. I feel like you've got a lot of those. I'd be interested in hearing about them at some point, but
Hmm.
the best found footage film is The Sacrament. I need to see that still. We talk
Same.
about it. We reference it and talk about it all the time, but I've never seen it. Um, it is a film journalism crew, so cinematography is believable, and the cinematographer is a character in the movie. Not really, but it's great. Cool.
Hmm.
I may I need to. There's so many movies I need to watch. I went through a very long period of time from like I want to say like middle of college to present to like very recent present where I just like straight up I lost track of all movies. I just didn't
Yeah.
watch them because I just didn't have the attention span for them.
Um.
Red Riding Hood, holy shit, Amethyst Cat Lady. Oh my god, Crystal, I remember that being in that theater. I do not recommend watching that movie. I do recommend drinking a whole bunch of alcohol and then watching that movie.
Okay. I'm on it.
Two very different viewing
Yeah,
experiences.
and maybe bring a friend so that you can heckle it the whole time while also just
Perfect.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
Geek
that was
Out.
my
That too. That too.
that
So
was
is it
my
based? Is it based? Sorry.
I don't know, I was just gonna say that was my Paranormal Activity viewing. I was underage, so we didn't drink, but heckling the film was my Paranormal
Yeah.
Activity viewing
So
experience.
I actually do want to talk about that because this goes into kind of the this is an example. My first experience watching Paranormal Activity is an example of where the gimmick actually did help.
Absolutely.
The gimmick helped. So we were like what I think we were like 16, 17, something like
Yeah.
that. We went to watch this movie and
I remember.
like there was a whole bunch of us just in this theater. And like the theater wasn't full, but it wasn't like empty either. And we were sitting like you know how sometimes like theaters they like the way that they're done is they're like there's that one row like that break in between like the seats way up front and like the rest of the seats. We were sitting in the front of that like back section. So we were sitting right in front of one of the aisles basically. And so we're sitting there and towards the end of the movie there like it was ramping up towards the climax of the film, like the final terrifying moment, where basically the wife who is possessed and whatever, like fully possessed by this demon, just like fucking throws her husband down the stairs and is like fucking. You can hear the screaming and whatever. And it's ramping up to that part, and as we were hearing the screaming, the lights in the theater start going up. Like they start coming on.
Ooh.
Yeah, the lights in the theater start coming on as like that screaming part is happening, and we're just sitting there, and it creates that like because the movie's not over, the lights are going on, and it's creating that feeling of like on some level there's like it ticked that something in the back of our minds. It's like they're turning the lights on because shit's about to get real bad, right? And then comes the part of the movie where like the woman she like comes back up the stairs and like walks over to the camera and is like crawling and weird and like looking at her hair over her face looking like the Ring Girl and is like looking at the camera and like gets close to it and then just suddenly her face just like contorts as she just at the camera and like the movie's over and everybody just because and the lights coming on was just building that anticipation. It was purely a gimmick, but it was effective.
Also, the
effective.
natural atmosphere of the room too helped.
Yes.
When people would be scared, there'd be that automatic. Everyone's in the same energy flow right there. Everyone's just like because everyone freaks out.
Yeah, and I think that was also helpful because the next time I saw Paranormal Activity, like the very end bit,
Yeah. Oh gosh.
the very end bit, I watched it and it had no effect on me whatsoever. And I tried to think about because like the first time I watched it, fucked me up for months. I was like I was terrified from that movie when I'd be like in my room like by myself in the dark. I'd just be like, oh god, shit, and scared shitless. But like then I watched it and then I got over it and I watched it the second time years later and had no effect on me whatsoever. Like in the moment I was like, yeah, this is kind of scary, but like had no effect on me. And I tried to think about why for so long and I realized that what it was is that being in a theater truly does watching a movie in a theater truly does have an effect. It truly does have an effect on your experience because that sort of like collective anticipation and tension that the audience was feeling that played a huge role in how that film affected me because the second time I watched it, it was scary in the moment and it was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was over it. So, and maybe it's because I knew it was happening. Maybe it was because I knew what was coming. Maybe it was the atmosphere. I don't know. But either way, the second time around, it's just kind of like, okay.
Meh.
I agree with Remy. I got chills and like I held my arm up to the camera because I had goosebumps and all my hair was
Oh wow,
standing on end
very
just from
nice.
your description of reading it, or, like of experiencing it. So like,
It was crazy, man.
um, we watched The Happening with Marky Mark, and it is a bad horror movie, just a bad movie. That's what I heard. That's what I remember. But the weather in West Texas suddenly became really bad. Not unusual, but perfect timing. We had 70-mile winds with gusts up to 100 miles per hour, so the movie was much scarier the first time I watched it. I
Ah,
believe that. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Wait, Karaoke Night 69, is that a real thing that happened? I went to see Harry Potter 7 and the film caught on fire as the snake scene at Bathilda Bagshot's house. I thought it was a cool, spooky effect, but then the movie didn't come back. Is that a real thing that happened to you?
huh.
That's wild.
Wow.
That's wild. Oh my god. That's
Crazy.
it
yeah,
was the projector said too spoopy.
this is this is 3 spoopy 5 me. We're out of here.
Bye. Yeah.
Okay, bye.
That's
Oh my
wild,
god. Oh.
man. The most noteworthy thing that has ever happened to me at a Harry Potter film. I love this story, which is why I'm going to tell it now, even though it's not remotely relevant. Um,
Ramblemancy.
so it was. I think it was also for the last Harry Potter movie, and it was the premiere. It was one of the last Harry Potter movies. I remember. You could probably easily figure out when this was because the point of the story is that it was a midnight showing of the film. It was a midnight premiere, and to such a degree that like the theater that we were at actually had not removed the posters from the movie that was playing previously, which was Cars 2. Um, and we were like in line and like not really paying attention to that because that's like standard. Like the movie poster doesn't usually go up on the local theater until like it's the actual day. So whatever. We're in line. We get inside. We get our popcorn and stuff, and sit down at the in the seats. And everybody's just being boisterous and whatever. There's like a huge group of us, like my friends from high school, a bunch of us, and everybody's being boisterous and excited and all this stuff. And uh, then the Warner Brothers logo with the clouds and whatever comes up on screen, and everybody just goes dead silent. The whole theater just dead silent. And then as we're coming up, the like Harry Potter and the whatever of whatever comes up on the screen, and you hear everybody just kind of like there's like that sort of like cheer or whatever, like sort of muted, and then it gets quiet very quickly, and then my friend Charlie is way in the back of the theater, sitting way up at the top row, and he just calls out loudly in the theater. He's just like, "Hey, this isn't Cars 2," and the whole theater fucking dies. Everybody just started laughing. It was amazing.
Master of timing.
He truly was one of the funniest
Oh
people that I've
my
ever known,
god.
and like a masterful timing because he like it was the theater. They cheered, they got silent, and he
There was a
waited a
beat.
beat, and he's like, "Hey, this isn't Cars 2," and everybody just broke out laughing.
I died.
Oh my, what a movie to pick to be like, and just
Mhm.
this isn't Cars 2.
That's my favorite movie theater story. I love it so much.
It had to have been, and it worked probably. One of the things that probably helped is because that poster was
Yeah,
still out there, and so
everybody
many
saw
people
it.
saw
Everybody
it.
saw it as they were coming in, so they
There was-
knew
They were
knew
in
what was
on the
happening.
joke
Yeah.
on a level.
Yeah,
Oh gosh,
it was amazing.
it was really amazing. Man,
Yeah.
My god.
it was
Just
true
art.
theater in the moment. It was art.
It was true theater. We went to the theater to see a movie, but we got a show.
Mm-hmm. 2 shows.
2 shows for the price of 1.
It's gonna be a big one. All right.
Oh man.
We're just flashing back to our last writer's session
Oh my
now.
God. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That bit that we did for like 10 minutes.
I've been
Which
missing out on
one?
so many. I missed out on a lot of writers' rooms.
Oh
uh,
God. What was I was gonna try to bring us back on topic.
oh, it's. I don't know about that.
It's been a while since we talked about this
Yeah.
topic.
The trajectory of this topic is.
Need Lucas doing bending match announcements.
That's yeah. Maybe.
The Republic City announcer guy is like is one of my
Yeah.
favorite
And copyright
voices to do.
infringement. Not quite. We're not there yet. We didn't. I only said 2 words. We're good. We're still under the.
It's good to keep us honest, though.
And demonetized.
Jeez.
Yeah. Unrelated. We went to see the new Alice in
Mhm.
Wonderland with Johnny Depp opening weekend, and that was the first Tron Legacy trailer. Is that really those the same time? Jesus. The moment the crane shot reveals Flynn's arcade, I leaped out of my seat and screamed, "Tron!" Everyone turns to look at me, and this guy goes, "I fight for the users," and everyone cheers. It was great. That's amazing. I love that. Geekouts,
Wow.
you just became my hero. Like, for that and many other reasons, but in particular this moment,
Damn.
that.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
That's cool.
Round of applause in chat for our amazing
Uh-huh.
non-geek outs.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Are there any burning trajectory of fear, like hot takes or questions or commentaries we wanna round the evening out on? This video contains a muted section due to a
I don't remember that being a thing, Amethyst, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't super paying attention to anything that happened during that movie. So yeah. I think it's interesting when things that are supposed to be scary are instead funny. Yeah, I actually also I think that's interesting too. Like there are the movies that are like very clearly supposed to be funny, like horror comedy, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil,
Zombieland.
Zombieland. Yeah, there are movies that are very Zombieland. I feel like Zombieland is a little too up its own ass to be funny, but like it is funny, but it has its moments, but it's like it's that kind of funny where it's like we know we're being cute and you're like and you ruined it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that that is interesting. And I suspect I'd have to go through and like find specific examples, but I suspect yeah, it's a release of built up tension and that had nowhere to go that causes horror to become funny. Yes, but also I suspect often it might also be a combination of that and a failure to adhere the principles of the trajectory of fear correctly, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Like going for horror when you should have instead gone for terror.
Yeah, or like ratcheting up when you like stepping on the gas when you instead should have let off.
Yeah. My brother and I watched a horror movie called Rest Stop once. It was so bad it was hilarious rather than scary. It's led to a running joke in the family. I love when that kind of thing happens.
I feel like I don't know what that movie is about, but I feel like it would just make me even more afraid of using stalls and rest stops on the side of the road.
I mean, that seems like you should maybe already be a little bit afraid of that, but
I mean, I am just like we'll go from like sort of vaguely unsettled in any rest stop anywhere to just like maybe I'll just wait.
in the 86 film House, when the boom mic accidentally peeks into a scene, amazing. I love that kind of stuff when it happens in films. I think it's the funniest thing. It's just excellent. Evil Dead has accidental fun moments, which is why in Evil Dead 2 they leaned into the comedy on purpose, and the franchise has ever since. Yeah, and that's a good move. See, I love when the other side of this is know what genre you're producing, know what the content is going to be suited for. Because and this is my problem with The Walking Dead, at least earlier seasons, because it did kind of get a little better later on. But my problem with The Walking Dead is that it's patently ridiculous. Everything that happens is patently ridiculous, but it tries so hard to convince you that you should be taking it seriously. And that just makes it funnier. So, like, yeah. It tries so hard to get you to, like, take it seriously with everybody. But the gravity with which the characters on screen treat the patently ridiculous situations that they get into just makes it funnier. And it's
it felt like, and you've watched it more recently than me, but like thinking back to The Walking Dead, like the way that people responded to things just like seemed like it felt like everyone had one response to things, and it was just to be emo about it all the time, and it just
or to get
did
mad.
not feel
Just get like
or
to
that
fly off the fucking handle. Like
I'm like, if I manage to survive some kind of horrifying zombie apocalypse, like I'm going to deal with it the same way I deal with everything else, which is just to joke a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it would be hard, but eventually you'd get used to how much everything sucks, and you would go right back to joking about shit. Probably more trauma responses. Anyway,
exactly.
Z Nation, absolutely Karaoke Night 69. We bring this up every time, and I love it. Z Nation
so good.
is vastly superior to The Walking Dead. Because it knows what it is and doesn't try to be anything else. In fact, it leans into how ridiculous it is. But it still manages to be serious when it needs to be. Because, and this is going back to what, I don't remember who, somebody said this earlier, the tension is being released in other moments in the form of humor when it is appropriate. So it actually serves the serious moments. And yeah, it's just well done. If anyone was on edge for as long as the characters in The Walking Dead, they would have heart problems. Fair.
I'm surprised that they haven't cut themselves the amount of edge that they're on.
Oh,
like,
God.
Yeah.
A fair number of them. It's happened, but not because of that. It's happened a lot. Yeah, well, I think this may just be the end of our show. Mainly because I still have things to say, and we are at roughly the time that we're supposed to end, so that we will get to the requisite 10 minutes past before we end it.
Of course.
So, a few things to say, just some quick recaps of stuff that's happening. First of all, tomorrow, right here, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard. Nope, we're not the standard yet. Pacific Daylight Time. Wait, sorry, I just got distracted because I had to second guess whether or not we've passed daylight savings. We haven't, right? We haven't done that. We haven't done that yet.
So.
Cool.
Not yet.
All right.
And my sleep schedule is fucked up for a different reason.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Right.
We will be here, John and I, playing Conan Exiles. It's gonna be a time. We're gonna run around. We're gonna slay some beasts. We're gonna get slain by some beasts. We're gonna maybe build some stuff, run some dungeons. I don't know. I just
Tune in, find out.
Tune in and find out. We don't know what's gonna happen.
Chaos, probably.
We have a writer's room, but you think after seeing me and John and Caitlin on screen, you think we write anything that we do? Come on.
Writer's room is just Caitlin, Lucas, and I sitting around saying "loop" in different voices for like 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, tune in to find out if I decide it's going to be a bad enough idea to stream us going and chasing down some ice giants. Spoilers, it is a bad enough idea. So, I know where they are now, John. I learned this as well.
I want to go see them.
Yeah, it's not great. It's going to go very badly. Tune in to see it. It's going to be a spectacle. On a different day, specifically hold on. No, stay with me. Specifically on Wednesday, we'll be back with more It Came from the Loop. at 6 p.m. Pacific time. It's excellent, and if you haven't started watching it, you should check out our YouTube channel because it's easy to watch there, and their first 2 episodes are there. I feel like there's
Patreon.
Wait, before we get to that, I will say so all of our episodes of Ramblemancy this month will be sort of spooky themed. We kicked it off with the Trajectory of Fear. Next week, I believe we have Caitlin talking about
Caitlin for Kids on Bikes.
Yeah, talking about the Kids on Bikes genre of horror and kids saving the world. And there's plenty of spooky stuff in those genres. I mean, you know, E.T., Stranger Things, Super 8, Toy Story. You know, all of them. Like all those.
I love Super 8 so much.
Wow.
So that's what's going to be happening. That's what's happening here on Rule of Lore. Just a quick reminder that if you are subscribed here to us on Twitch, thank you. It's very helpful to us. But you may not also know that if you are a member of the Discord and subscribed here on Twitch, you get access to some of our Patreon rewards. And they are great. They're exciting. They're slightly late, but they happen, and you get access to them if you are subscribed. Alternatively, if you're on Patreon and you subscribe at the highest tier, you have a chance to once a month join John and I in a special writer's room where we do world building for our actual play, Infinite Horizon, which will be coming back at the end of this month. Theoretically, allegedly, as this is written in the script that we wrote for the recap video, allegedly, it will be coming back at the end of this month.
I wrote that in there as a gag, but I have a feeling it's going to make it into the finished product.
It's going to end in there. It's going to be there. And yeah, it's a fun time. We're building some cool stuff for season 2 of Infinite Horizon, and we got only about halfway through it last time, so we're going to do it again this month. It's going to be great. Other important stuff. I mean, join the Discord. That's where you get access to all sorts of important information, live announcements. The best chance for you to get announcements quickly, because I will often post them on Discord and forget to tweet them until like several minutes later. So that's another good place. Is my sorry, I'm distracted because I feel like my camera is skewed.
Maybe.
This is a really good time to notice this and fix it.
Nope. I don't see it.
You also can find a whole bunch of pictures of me building the shelf that is now behind me, and my cat commandeering said shelf.
Nice.
Not that the shelf was ever mine. It was Suki's.
You mean the books on the shelf commandeered the cat shelf?
Yes, exactly. Anyway, plenty of that also in the Discord, and of course we have a gallery for people to post the awesome fan art that they have made.
Yes,
so
it's excellent
cool stuff in there.
Do we have anybody that we can raid? I'm looking at
this
Twitch.
cat lady is being nice.
I'm looking at
Well,
Twitch.
you look. Gonna shamelessly self-plug for a moment.
You have stuff.
Yeah, I do have stuff. I recently opened up some freelance editing and writing commissions. So if there is, if you need another set of eyes on your content, whether it's stuff that you like blogs or Patreon posts or things like your a comic or fiction that you're writing, I do actually have editing commissions open, so you can commission me to look over your stuff, and I'm very excited to work on those things. So currently, I'm the editor for Breda Donnan's The Phoenix, and a couple of other projects that I can't really talk about yet, but are very exciting, and you will hear about soon. So
hire John.
Hire John. Do it.
You can find, there's a link to my website on my Twitter, which is right here at Resident Bard, or just residentbard.com.
Is Josephine live right now? Am I not following her? Huh, I swear I was. All right, yeah, let's go raid Josephine. She's running TTRPG, a horror TTRPG with Alex Ward.
Ooh, cool.
That sounds cool.
Nice.
I vaguely remember hearing about this. Let's yeah, sure, why not? Let's go raid Josephine.
Let's go to another spooky zone.
I really want to sing. I really want to sing the Twilight Zone theme song right now, but I
I know.
also very badly don't want this VOD to get muted, so I won't.
All right,
John,
everybody.
sing, do it.
We're gonna go and raid Josephine. Everybody, have a good night. Thanks so much for being here, for hanging out with us, for talking about the trajectory of fear and all of your favorite horror tropes. We will be back tomorrow night to play some Conan Exiles. It's gonna be chaos, probably. I mean, John's there, so it's probably, whatever. We'll see you tomorrow, but if not, we'll see you the next time you decide to come roll with us. Good night,
Love
good
it.
zone, everybody.
Zone.